Now, as the debate on whether or not to legalize commercial motor transport business wages on, motorbike riders have welcomed the promise by the flag bearer of the NDC to legalize the trade. JoyNews' Manuel Coranting has been out and about speaking to the commercial motorbike riders who have been sharing their thoughts about plans to regulate their trade.
President Asamoah because what take conjunction so one ne papa eti conjunction so me say ye dio minim call parliament ye demonstration call parliament me ka me no me go forward e call ya ye di esu come on say ye be so mo legalize na ye juma e bia o mbati tax experience ma fine ye koka no o say okay umate yanko na umba ma mo abasi nde na obasi o si free so na o si oba obeye eno no oka no mpacho nga kakra
because Okada na no anya obia na feel say o ye Okada duru ba bia nema bi na otimi hu say obi wuram Okada na jimam na odi moto say odi fa obi na onya kakra eto no bottom nti meti say your former president John Mahama say oba legalize Okada me de pa
because of this Okada on yes oba asama baba na nye because you some binu wa ya me say me on call 5 me ye juma bia ejuma we na me dia show me first one na one year SS to see our university first year because of Okada enye Okada na me ye ya manya half flood kra ma si dan ba ko si so a me ne me yire ne mba wo
sika Okada no musa
oh say juma bia enam se na obeye no because me say from the beginning me say 20 Ghana every day for 1 year. Oh
see a day obey juma otumi nya sen
e mai gi me ba juma na Yakopon duma mitumi nya 70 100 a day.
If you are not careful, you can work at the end of the day, you do cost 90 job. Because if you work a day and police catch you 3 times and take you, if you work a day and police catch you 3 times, despite the fact that you work that day, you not get 50 Ghana and they catch you 3 times. Whether you like it or not, if a police catch your motor, you have to do something before you can go. So that's why I see to it that the business, it seems that we don't have any support. Because we don't have any support, we see to it that they don't value us as human beings in Ghana here. We are also voting. So that is why I just make a point like if they will not legalize it, then they should do something to it. That is why, because I know when they cancel this one, it's going to be a big effective. Because the population in Accra here doing Accra job, it's not small population. And because of a lot of duties that there are, a lot of people enter into Okada business.
Yenya red, who say red in any economy. Ye jina traffic light now. Police near Oba, or jina traffic light or direct traffic light. It's duty to direct traffic light. But over just Dumano, Abachi, Motu. Until you do traffic light now. Now, fears be up by a home. Until you say, hey, you pass up, police in the chair. You so 100 Ghana, 50 Ghana, 70 Ghana. Sometimes Uber and the Crown for passing your back. Ebia 5 city na wokunokuo na 3 city ana police akoche demand 100 Ghana.
Fascinating stuff. Right now, I'm fortunate to be joined in the studio by the head of research and programs at the Motor Traffic and Transport Department, MTTD, of the Ghana Police Service, Superintendent Alexander Kweku Obeng. Superintendent, it's a pleasure to see you. I see you've come prepared, lots and lots of documentation.
Oh, yeah.
But I actually am hoping for a more practical conversation here. You and your men and women are responsible for enforcing the law that already exists. That law says that it is illegal for a person to carry a commercial passenger on a motorcycle. But we see it every day. It's part of our reality. So talk to us. Is it an impossible law to enforce?
Thank you very much and for the opportunity. And good afternoon to viewers and listeners on JoyNews. I'm happy to be here and be discussing issues on safety, particularly road safety, which means the mobility without risk. Can you imagine? So that there won't be, you go out, step out, and you will not go through a situation where there will be a crash involving you, associated death or injury or damage to your property. But is that the case? No, because the data shows clearly that there are certain gaps, and because of that, it's always good that we sustain this discourse. And I'm happy that the generality of all Ghanaians have their hands on deck, and for the first time, I used to be in the past, are discussing the issues of road safety. And so far as I'm concerned, the issues are not new, because we all decided that we will use motorcycle for only private use, and then in certain instances allow for limited use of it for dispatch purposes, carrying parcels and other things. But over time, we all agreed that yes, and we are doing our enforcement, because that one goes with certain safety protocols in terms of using it for private purpose, and it should be registered. And you attest that most of the motorcycles that you see in police urban jurisdiction have been embossed with vehicle registration number plate, blue with white lettering.
With respect to Superintendent, that is not the problem. No, that is not the law that is being broken. The law that is being broken is that they are using the motorbikes to carry commercial passengers.
But I'm saying that the law, as I'm talking about, prescribed using it for such purpose. And it banned not only the motorcyclists, but all Ghanaians from procuring it, intending to use it by all means, and for people to board it. You and I have been banned from going near somebody to collude so that you agree with you for you to board and then pay, and for him also or her to drive you to a designated place and all that. But all of us have, over time, as a result of our situation, and they so rationalize, and it is across the country.
So that means it's impossible to enforce this law.
The enforcement is challenged because the policing is contingent on the situation. And know that this one is also an emergent something. And of course, you try your best, but enforcement of the use is sometimes very difficult. A pillion rider on it is sometimes difficult to know, for example, why is it for private or hire? These are some of the challenges but we all are also aware, and we shouldn't pretend that across the 17 police regions in this country, and in all police urban jurisdiction, motorcycle use for private and for commercial has become diurnal and nocturnal life, a part of nocturnal life of Ghanaians. And the earlier we recognize that there is a situation that has emerged or emerging, it is perplexing, it lacks adequate solution and protection, so that we all chart a new course. And I think that it's a good discourse, and I'm at the back also enjoying it, because when you look at the decade so far, when we implemented the second global road safety plan in Ghana, and it was assessed by UN, it's no longer ago in February this year in Sweden. It came up that we have failed drastically. However, when it comes to awareness creation among governments, politicians, it achieved much. And I think that road safety experts should bank on that achievement and then sustain that discussion, so that in the end, road safety will also attract the political will that is so lax, so that we'll be able to put in, as a state, certain pragmatic policies and programs that will offset some of the gaps that exist that are impacting on the lives and property.
Candidate John Mahama says he will legalize Okada. From the enforcement point of view, MTTD, would this be a better situation than what we have today?
So far as we are concerned, policing is contingent on the situation. So if experts, and first of all, before you do that, you need a policy thinker, you need a visionary. So if somebody dreams of something and comes up with this idea, and it is bought, and the common for Parliament accepts that bill or policy and then review the existing LI and incorporate it and gazette it and give it to the Inspector General of Police, who are we? As traffic police officer, when the same document is handed over to us, all it requires that we train our personnel in the content and the procedure of enforcing it. And then we partner with our stakeholders and proceed. So for us, it's not for us to determine what goes into the law.
Right, so forgive me for pushing you a bit because, I mean, you are the expert. You're MTTD. You are responsible for managing our traffic from the policing point of view. And the question I'm asking is purely about policing, not about policy, about policing. If this becomes the reality, if Okada becomes legal, will it be a better situation from the police point of view? Or a worse situation?
You see, for so far as I'm concerned, any policy that comes with its procedures of enforcement, both institutional and physical deterrent, deploy traffic police officers to complement to make it work, and other arrangement that will come with it. If it comes, so be it. What is important for me is that when you go across the country, it is obvious that you and I have bought motorbikes and we are using it more profusely than what the law intended to be used for private purpose. Everywhere in the country, everywhere. And therefore, I don't think we cannot be aloof, but look at it and be pragmatic. Whatever that comes with it in terms of enforcement, police will go ahead with it. But
all right,
from the look of things.
Let me try and put it another way. So you have already told us that your current job of enforcing the law that says it's illegal, that is not possible. The reality of the situation on the ground shows that it's not possible for the police to properly enforce that law. So now the question is, if it becomes legal, the police's job will then change. You will now have to regulate their use and ensure that they meet all the requirements, they do not break traffic rules and so forth.
I don't know whether you know the commercial use of motorcycle requirement. I don't know whether we know it now.
The point is, now whatever those requirements may be,
that's what I mean.
The police's job will be to enforce them and ensure that these same people who you can't regulate today, you must then ensure that they obey all the traffic regulations, they don't ride dangerously, they use protective equipment properly. You would have to ensure that they do that. Now today, you can't even ensure that they stop at traffic lights. If they legalize their operation, can you ensure that they obey the road regulations?
Oh, what I said, and I think maybe you didn't catch, I said that currently the motorcycles that we are using in Ghana is supposed to be used for private purpose, and there are certain safety protocols that people, and when you look at where we started from in 2012 when the law came, from ground zero, majority were not wearing even crash helmets. Now, you go into the streets of Accra and elsewhere, you see that majority have registered their motorbike and they are on crash helmet. That is the plus for enforcement and sensitization. Elsewhere in the northern third, you go, you see that people stop at traffic light, but sometimes it's difficult for them to put on the crash helmet, which is also a challenge for us. They cite certain rational geographic conditions, that is why they don't in those areas. So we are trying our best, given our sociocultural disparities and background. And so far as we are concerned, we have done what we have to do, but when it comes to the use goes beyond just mere deployment of traffic police officers. See, we must get that understanding. So when it's about regulations, about enforcement, not necessarily identifying a body of traffic police officers, give them training to go and stand. No, elsewhere where such experience is being practiced, it is not only traffic police officer deployed. It is also about certain regulatory measures, sometimes institutional. For example, training. For example, construction. For example, operation. And this operation, you're talking about how elsewhere in the law, it is designed in such a way that it operates along the cooperative lines, so that the operator license is used as an enforcement tool, that the members whom you are working with the motorbike on this route, if they don't comply wearing this kind of uniform and particular vehicle, if they don't stop at traffic light, your operator license will be withdrawn, for example. So best practices are there in terms of this operation and enforcement. So it's not all the time that you look at only traffic police when it comes to commercial use of vehicle on the road. And that is why elsewhere in Ghana, for example, experts have said that the way the commercial transport operation in Ghana is being regulated is not the best. And therefore, people are agitating that even there should be a dedicated state institution that will regulate the use of commercial vehicles in Ghana. I'm not surprised that in Act 993, such responsibility has been given to National Road Safety Authority. You see what I'm talking about? It is not police to supervise the GPI2 cooperative and all that, so that you can use licensing withdrawal, okay, and as a punishment too. You can use suspension. You can have inspectors to go and all that. And elsewhere where these things are done, they look at that. So far as police are concerned, sometimes it has to do with safety protocols. And the safety protocols, the use of vehicles, we try our best. However, our best may not be adequate, but we continue to do what we have to do. But in the data, I want to say something. We are always looking, when you hide behind only commercial, we make mistakes. Private people are also involved. Dispatch are involved. And it's that when I have this opportunity, I try to sensitize a bit. What is important, which will not go away, irrespective of whether you're using it for private or for commercial, are these safety protocols. The motorcycle or any vehicle you're using has to be registered. And you don't need compulsion from police to do it. Basic. Two, the motorcycle should be insured, okay?
Right.
And then the one on board should be 18 years or above and should have availed him or herself to DVLA and might have passed and holding Ghana driver license category A. Are you with me? And when you have this, it makes it, and then out of the acquisition, you will be inculcated with the fact that one of your safety equipment is protective clothing, at least if nothing, crash helmet. Wearing it is very important, so that pillion rider that you are picking should all the time wear it.
Right.
This, when you do it, will help us. However, let me also make my last appeal. In the course of this discussion, we should also don't lose sight of the fact that our roads are also riddled with broken down vehicles and disabled vehicles and accidental vehicles. And it takes days before these are took. In other words, I'm pointing the state's attention to the fact that we have a gap in terms of collision into vehicles that are broken, and therefore towing system should be looked at.
Right.
An investment purposefully directed towards it, so that the state can boast of a pool of towing trucks, or individuals should be encouraged to procure more so that they can support the traffic police across the country to rid off our road of all these broken down transit vehicles that, unfortunately, if we are not alerted early, or it happens at night, or we delay before we get this heavy towing truck to go and pull, people get crashed into it, and we lose
it's an important call, Superintendent, but today I want us to focus on the motorcycle. So I want you to have a look at this just for a moment. We want to see how other countries are regulating the Okada business. Now, we put the focus on Rwanda's capital, Kigali, where JoyNews' Matilda Bwemaga filed this report back in 2019.
This is the city center of Kigali. This is the central business district. It's a very busy place where taxi moto appears to be the easiest and affordable means of transport within the city center and some communities around.
Cedric has arrived from Ruyenzi town center to Kigali, Rwanda's capital. The ride from Ruyenzi in the southern part of Rwanda to Kigali is part of Cedric's daily routine. Kigali is the busiest destination for taxi motos in Rwanda, but you can't just buy a motorcycle and start a commercial business. It is orderly and properly regulated.
You buy a motor, then you come to the cooperative.
Which cooperative?
There is so many cooperatives here. Yeah, so you are registered after. But the first, you should have driving license, right?
License,
okay. Driving license.
So if I don't have license, I can't ride.
You can't ride.
Really?
It's forbidden. Yeah.
It's forbidden.
Yeah.
Early Elias has been in the business for 8 years. He tells me how disciplined the riders here are.
The government asks you to have a license permit. After getting a license, you go in an association like cooperative, and then you go to ask the insurance. After getting insurance.
So you need insurance?
No, I have it.
Everybody has insurance?
Yes.
If I don't have insurance, I can't ride motor?
No, the law is against you if you don't have insurance. Wow. You have insurance for life, even insurance for the motor. Yeah.
I see.
And then you start to work.
To work?
Yeah.
So how is it? Can I just...
Taxi motos are the most convenient and affordable means to get through the city of Kigali. Kigali city accounts for over 60% of motorcyclists in the country, with the number of registered operators under the Rwandan Federation of Taxi Motor Riders totaling around 35,000. Rongugu Gendemore is the acting city engineer of Kigali.
Taxi motor here are, are combined into cooperatives. These are cooperatives that are formed to make sure that nobody's working as an individual. Everyone has to be registered in a certain cooperative. The cooperative have got leaders, and these leaders are the ones that we work together to make sure that all the discipline is, of course, respected. So we make sure that all the rules that we have set up, all the regulations that you have to follow are all respected by enforcement. We have to enforce, of course, you set up the rules, you set up your goals, you set up whatever you want to be established, but if you don't enforce, then people will not respect it. So we make sure that we have the enforcement part that is working very strategically.
Okay. Also, I realized that for people within the cooperative, you can't move from one jurisdiction to the other. How do you ensure that? How are they able to tell that this taxi motor is coming from Ruhango and the taxi motor can't work in Kigali? I'm wondering how you do that.
Here you have to have documents. You have to have documents on which cooperative do you work to, which cooperative do you belong to. So whenever we want to verify that a taxi motor driver is working in a certain district, not in the city of Kigali, we have to make sure that on a daily basis we ask for the documents that they have, so that we can make sure that this one is working from the city of Kigali or is working outside the city of Kigali. Among the taxi motor drivers themselves have leaders, and they are the ones that could be able to say that this one we don't recognize him, so they report it and then the case be taken to.
Okada is a thriving business in Ghana, but many of the users lack discipline and regard for road traffic regulations. In fact, the trade is illegal in Ghana, but of course, there are still dozens of riders using their private motorbikes for commercial purposes, and the trend has been blamed on lax implementation of the law by city authorities. There are certainly many lessons to be drawn from the Rwandan experience. For JoyNews, Matilda Vamaga, Kigali, Rwanda.
Right, let's get some more opinions on this. Joining the conversation as the Director of Planning and Programs of the National Road Safety Authority, David Osafo Adonting. Mr. Osafo Adonting, it's a pleasure to speak to you once again. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Kojo.
Right, now, just as we did with the police, we want to get to brass tacks here. The problem, the reason why it is dangerous, the reason why the Road Safety Commission is concerned about Okada is because of the safety concerns, the fact that motorbike accidents are increasing. In fact, over a 5-year period, the increase in motorbike accidents is something like 1,000%. So the question I have for you is this. By simply making it legal for a motorbike rider to charge money of his pillion rider, making it legal, How will that make the roads safer?
Kojo, thank you very much. And first of all, let me commend you for the documentary you just showed in Rwanda. Indeed, very, very, very insightful. That is exactly how it is in Rwanda. Myself and the police officer right beside you and a few other members were there in Rwanda to see exactly what is on the ground as far as motorcycle usage and Okada operation is concerned. Indeed, the law, as is provided in 128 of LI 2180, was not just there by chance. It came as a result of data, information, research from practices across the world. And then Ghana decided somewhere in 2012 that we would not want to put our people into that risk, which means that if we were to open up at that time, we anticipated that there could be a situation where we could count the number of deaths like we are counting currently. As I speak to you now, I believe my good friend, police officer, has already given some statistics. But if you are counting about 532 deaths, motorcycle-related deaths, then it is not something good to write home about. Indeed, we are worried about the situation. Now, we said we did not legalize it because of the risk involved. If you sit on a motorbike, the risk is higher. In fact, I would put it about 4 times or more than that higher than sitting in a motor vehicle, where you are protected. You are covered by the whole, prestige components of a vehicle. This one, you are exposed to the road. You are exposed to everything. If you should go down for one reason or the other, you go with your head directly to the road. You go with your hands or your legs, and so you are not safe at all. And so whether legalization or not legalization came as a result of the research that we did, that we actually identified that it is riskier for anybody to sit on a motorbike at any point in time, whether private or commercial. Now, when it comes to commercial, the difficulty we have is that the level of indiscipline grows very high. Indiscipline. Because this is a person who is riding for money. He's doing it for gains. And so the more you do, the more you gain. And that is that is the difference between the private man and the commercial man. The commercial is such a way that he has to run hurriedly as many times as possible in a day so that he can make some ends meet. He can double or he can triple his revenue. And so he doesn't respect any law. He doesn't care about whoever, any other road user. And so in being in that situation, if you tend to open up without putting in place mechanisms to protect human life and property, then you risk it. I mean, you stand the chance of getting this kind of numbers that we are seeing. So we can see that opening up as far as legalization is concerned, then you have more people coming in and perhaps more people riding with indiscipline without respecting the laws. And you can imagine what will happen. So that's the difference between legalizing and not legalizing.
Right. So in essence, you are actually attributing quite a significant amount of the danger that these motorbike riders pose to the fact that their activity is illegal.
Exactly.
So if we simply legalize their activity, they would suddenly be safer.
If you legalize, then the situation could change. What I mean is that you could have more people coming in because this time around it is open. You could also have a situation where, because there are many, they'll be overwhelmed. I mean, the numbers will flood the roads. The police, in terms of capacity, may not be able to control them. And for that matter, they can do anything they like because you cannot pursue them in any way. And so the level of indiscipline is very also likely to rise higher than we can manage or can control. And so that is a risk that we attribute to legalizing it. That is a risk. in terms of numbers, in terms of level of indiscipline, and the risk associated with it.
So on the balance, what would be the expert advice of the National Road Safety Authority to the government of Ghana, whichever party is in government? What would be your advice? Legalize or keep it illegal?
Okay, I think I like where you're coming from. Your question has positioned me in a manner for me to say that you have not politicized it. And so I will go from that line. It is not about a question of politicization. It is not about the question of whether it is in Ghana, for example, an NDC, an NPP, or PPP, or CPP. No, it's a national problem. And we, from the National Road Safety Authority, we have already raised a red flag that looking at our statistics, it's an area that we should look at comprehensively. Well, I think the question will be whether legalized or not legalized. We have made it illegal for a number of years now, since 2012, and even beyond. We have seen that on the ground, the situation is not like we wish. People are not respecting the law. And so on the ground, they are operating without reference to the law, without any respect to the law. Now, what we have actually proposed, that there are a number of models that are operating across the world. You have just shown one from Rwanda, which we have observed it ourselves. In other jurisdictions, they have made it such a way that you cannot use two persons sitting on one motorbike. That is a model they are also using. So one person for one motorbike, and it is naturally the rider alone. You don't take any pillion rider. It is a very smart way of avoiding all this kind of menace. In our case, we are clearly saying that the law is not working. If the law is not working, a law that does not work means that it has to be reviewed. Now, how do we review this? A lot of options are coming. We are all sharing views and opinions. If we want to maintain the status quo as it is in the law now, then enforcement must be vigorous. And my good friend Supo Obin sitting there would have to tell us if it is possible that they can enforce to the brim. If they cannot, then it means that it has to be changed to a situation where perhaps we open up and regulate, like it's been suggested by our former president. What that means is that the moment as Ghana, if we all agree and decide that that is the way we are going, then it means that we are putting in place mechanisms, systems that will enable us regulate properly. And I'm talking about proper regulation, in which case there are serious sanctions, there are ways of monitoring, there are ways of putting them together and watching them so that they comply with the rules and the regulations. If we are unable to do that, then we will not even need to go there at all. Because as you said earlier, even now, wearing of helmets that we expect them to do, they are not doing it. Stopping at red light signals, intersections, they are not. Now, if you want to move into a new era of regulation, what is the assurance? What capacity do we have to go that far into regulating when even we are not able to regulate now or enforce now? So there are a lot of questions that we need to, but we will need to try a certain model, which means that somebody must be a champion. And these are suggestions that are coming. To me, we need a national debate because it has gone beyond safety. It's gone beyond transport. It has gone now into governance. Because if you go to the rural areas, I can tell you that without the motorbike, somebody will have to walk a kilometer or two before he gets to his destination. And is that what we want? Can there be a situation where we can allow for certain communities in the rural areas and perhaps not open up in the cities if it is possible? So these are all models that we are discussing. Currently, we have not stepped on one particular role or one particular model, but I think that it's leading to a situation where we may at one time along the line as we move along come into the issue of regulation. It is very likely. That is not to say that is the position of the National Road Safety Authority, but on the ground, what I have personally gone to see across the country, where it is widespread and it's becoming difficult for us to enforce, and you see assemblies are even levying them, taking revenue all the time, and now people are complaining that they don't have jobs to do, and this is what they are living on, and so on. I won't be surprised that in the near future, proposals will come in numbers for us to regulate a kind of a situation in that.
You mean to legalize and regulate?
It's an option, and I won't be surprised. I will not be surprised. That is not my position anyway. But I will not be surprised unless we are able to control from the rural communities,
right,
where it is very difficult for some people to get transportation from one destination to the other. It is a very difficult situation in those areas.
Right.
And they don't have any alternatives. There are no options of public transport like you and I enjoy here in the cities.
Okay.
So balancing the rural and urban situations, I think that is a very sensitive area. Unless
Mr. David Osafo-Adonte, I want to thank you very much for your contribution there. Apologies for cutting in our time. Unfortunately, does not wait for us. Here's how I'd like us to wrap up. Maybe a very quick overview of the numbers. So far this year, do we know how many motorcycle accidents, how many deaths we've seen this year?
Yes.
And how does it relate to last year?
Compared with we all know what happened last year, for example. But when let's look at the January to July, for example. Last year, we had about 2,675 motorcycles involved in crashes. This year, it has increased by beyond 14%.
Wow.
To 3,058.
In spite of the lockdown at some point and all of that?
It has gone up. And in the process, this year, for example, we've lost 532 Ghanaians, January to July. And if you compare, this year is a bit higher. And it's nothing because generally it's a trend that we've left a hooping gap in the road safety issues relating to safe use of motorcycle, particularly the commercial. And so, as Mr. Dontin said, from all it's obvious that we cannot overlook it, but take the bull by the horn and know that it has become part of our resources and what we do. So we should do something about it, because for police deployment alone cannot solve issues of use of motorcycle for commercial purposes, but it needs additional intervention in terms of re-engineering of the law, institutional enforcement arrangement, and operation of it. And this is the best practice across the world.
Superintendent Obey, I want to thank you so much for your time with us. It's always enlightening when you join us. But now you understand why this conversation is important, and it will not end here.